Thank you, Till. Yeah, happy to also contribute a lightning talk to this one. So I'm trying to talk about three things very, very briefly. There's a lot to say about all of this, and we heard many, many great contributions yesterday and today. So I want to go a little bit into how do we model and how do we simulate the city in a more infrastructural or public infrastructure. Public digital infrastructure is a term that we heard today, and I'm trying this. I think this links very well with what we want to do here. So first of all, how do we represent urban processes digitally? Then how do we share models between stakeholders in terms of model implementation? And then lastly, model application. So how do we collaborate with these scenarios so that we really use certain types of models beyond academia, but we can also start transferring models from academia more rapidly and more efficiently into the application and co-create this and have a discussion about these algorithms and these models inside urban digital twins. So I think this whole quadruple helix approach that we also saw yesterday coming from the governance perspective is quite interesting. So we have the private sector, civil society, academia, and the public sector. And what we see and what we find, we also did a study on this, is that simulation models and algorithms are basically siloed or in these different boxes across these different institutions. And there is a lot which is already there. We heard this from the example of Amsterdam. Hamburg is no exception there. So we do have a couple of, we see the DPAS analytics here that we just heard of in the city of Hamburg in the public administration. There's a lot of models available in research, in traffic and simulation, for example. We do have some civil society models. Counter modeling was also a term that, or counter mapping, or this counter practices that we heard of today. And then there's like private company models as well. So what we suggested in the Connected Urban Twins project together with the LGV, the Information Agency for Geoinformation and Surveying, there we go, is creating a platform where you can share these models as well, like you share data, but it's basically providing access to all of these underlying models, and you can configure them and different entities can set up this platform. And then on top of this platform, you can build certain applications. So you would have, of course, the data ready via this data platform, but you also have the models ready via this model platform. So you could access the same, let's say, heat island or the same transportation model from a WebGIS system or from your VR goggles or from your smartphone app, for example. So then no matter which users, they would sort of execute these models. They run in the background somewhere. Some take longer, some are faster. And then the results come back and are displayed in a lot of different applications. So this goes into this federated digital twin ecosystem. There's not one twin, there's multiple twins. So what I want to talk or shine some quick lights on today is three different things. What we developed and worked on for the past years is, first of all, how do we represent urban processes digitally? Coming back to the question in the beginning, how do we add these boxes? How can we collaborate in making these models together with people in a transparent way? That is something that we call the Urban Model Builder. Then quickly about the Urban Model Platform, how to share it. I already talked about this. And then lastly, the Scenario Explorer as one potential way of doing this. So how do we collaborate with scenarios? I was actually thinking of doing a live demo. We can do this later on in some break over there. I think now it's a little bit much to switch back and forth. But what you see here is the front end. You can basically say, okay, I want to create a new model. I test the model, I name it, and then there is a canvas. And on this canvas, you can add all sorts of different variables. You can give the variables different values. You can connect them. It's a low code or a no code interface to representing different relations between different data. What we can also do is we can integrate real-time data from the Urban Data Platform. So based on these open standards of the data platform, we pull the data and then we include this in the models. And we can share these models. So it's like a Miro board, basically. So you would create it, set it up, and then share it with others. And then there's a real-time collaboration between users, so people know what has been going on. You can version it, so you can say, okay, now version 1.0 is finished. We want to publish it now. And once it's published, you can make it accessible for the Urban Model platform. So then other applications will have access to these models, and people will see directly how do these different things interlink. So you define sliders, as you can see here, which is very, like, I hope accessible, and I would love some of you to test it, or all of you to test it. If you're interested, please reach out. And then run these simulations, but also make these simulations accessible via the platform so that other applications can use these models as well. By the way, all of this is open source. So if you're interested in this and you're a little bit technically prone, you run Docker Compose up and you have it running basically. So this is something that I think is also important to mention. So for this platform, here is a little schematic illustration of how it works. So there is this platform which is connected between different servers. There's this ecosystem or federated system of different servers. We did build in an authentication authorization component so that, let's say there is a huge model which has a lot of costs, that you can secure it and then also only give access to the people who also maybe pay for it or have access to this. And we integrate the geo server for having the geospatial results. There's a lot of more functionalities that I can go into, but we can also do this later on. And lastly, this is one potential application of models. We called it the Scenario Explorer. So it's about applying models and collaborating with scenarios. So we connect this. Oh, can we turn down the volume over here? Never mind. So yeah, so let's just explain it this way. We can also do a live demo later. It should work. So we have the master portal, which is the geo portal. But once you log in here, you have basically access to all of the models which are provided on the model platform for you. Once you put in the right input parameters, it will be calculated, and then the resulting layers will also appear as one data layer on this interface, which you can then again share with other users of this tool. And the, I think, cool thing about this is that this is all in the browser. So there is no specific technical requirements. People are used, a lot of municipalities are already used to working with the master portal, and they know how to display different layers. And then it's about executing some of these simulations, the what-if scenarios, but then also sharing the results with other people who might not have access to the model and commenting this, comparing it with other data layers. So the next steps. I think this increase of data availability, which we see in a lot of cities, also leads to increasing demands of processing and utilization of this data using all sorts of models. We've seen DPAS analytics, which is some sort of model, but also simulation models which predict dynamic behaviors over time. I also want to include that this technology that we're building is not neutral. So we have to think about these questions. Which aspects are we modeling, making them transparent, making people more or less easily or as easy as possible to understand how are the interlinkages so that we do not create more black boxes for very important decisions. We need to take into account what assumptions are made, who develops the model, and how transparent is the functionality. So this is, again, the link back to more public and democratic infrastructure for a more digital sovereignty of cities and democratic usage of these algorithms. And I also do think that we need more interfaces for uncertain futures, because all of this is highly uncertain. There can be multiple different ways in which we develop our city. The future is open, basically. But how do we structure all of this uncertainty? How do we make it tangible so that there's not a single KPI or a red light, a green light, and a yellow light, and make it more graspable in which area we operate, and that there's a lot of creativity also involved in designing the future. So I think this is also urgently needed. And with this, I'm gonna end with 3 takeaways. So I think the urban model platform creates the necessary infrastructure for the use of multiple models from different stakeholders across academia, public sector, private sector, and civil society. one can use such a platform to connect a wide variety of different applications, such as the Scenario Explorer, but this can also be a whole bunch of other applications. And co-modeling with tools such as the Urban Model Builder. These processes can be modeled and simulated transparently and collaboratively with a group of stakeholders involved in this. And with this, thank you very much for your attention.